The letter arrived on an ordinary Tuesday, tucked between grocery flyers and utility bills, as if it had no idea how heavy it was. Margaret Lewis saw it immediately because of the handwriting, careful, slanted, and unmistakably familiar. Her hands froze. She hadn't seen that handwriting in 40 years. The envelope was yellowed, its edges soft with age. The stamp faded, but still clear enough to read. 1975. The return address was a military APO, a place that no longer existed. Her name, Margaret Ann Lewis, was written the way only one person ever wrote it, with that extra space between her first and middle names. Tom, her husband. He had died in Vietnam before their first anniversary. That's what the army had told her. That's what the folded flag and the funeral with no body had confirmed. Over time, she had learned to live with the silence that followed, learned to stop listening for footsteps that would never come. And yet, here was his handwriting sitting on her kitchen table like a ghost with unfinished business. Margaret didn't open it right away. She made tea. She sat down. She stood up again. Her fingers trembled as she finally slid a knife under the seal, careful not to tear the paper, as if damaging it might somehow erase him all over again. Inside was a single sheet, folded twice. The paper was thin, creased deeply, and stained in places she didn't want to imagine. The ink had faded to a soft blue, but the words were still there. "If you're reading this, Maggie, it means I didn't make it home." Her breath caught in her throat. "I don't know when this letter will find you. I don't even know if it will. I'm writing it during a quiet hour that feels borrowed, like time I'm not supposed to have." Margaret's eyes blurred, but she kept reading. "The men here talk about the future like it's guaranteed. I don't. Not because I'm afraid, but because I've learned that certainty doesn't belong to this place. What does belong here is memory." He wrote about the heat first, the way it pressed down on everything, even thoughts. He wrote about the nights filled with distant gunfire and a much closer fear, about the way soldiers learned each other's breathing in the dark. He didn't glorify it or dramatize it. He just told the truth, the way Tom always had. "I keep your photo in my helmet," he wrote. "Not because it's safe there, but because if something happens, I want the last thing I see to be your smile." Margaret had to stop. She pressed the paper to her chest, the way she had once pressed her ear there, listening to his heart when they were young and believed their time was endless. She forced herself to continue. "I need you to know something, Maggie. If I don't come back, it won't be because I didn't try. And it won't be because I didn't want a life with you. I wanted it so badly it scared me." The letter shifted then, becoming less about the war and more about her. He apologized for small things, arguments about money, forgetting their anniversary dinner reservation, leaving muddy boots by the door. Things she had long forgiven but never forgotten. "Love is strange," he wrote. "It feels fragile, but it survives places stronger things don't." Near the end, his handwriting grew uneven. "There's a chance this letter won't be sent. I'm giving it to a man who promised he'd email it if anything happens to me. Promises are risky here. But if you're holding this, then one promise survived." Margaret realized she was crying openly now, tears dripping onto the paper, blurring words that had waited 4 decades to be read. The last paragraph was short. "Live, Maggie. Don't shrink your life to honor my death. If you love again, I won't be jealous. If you laugh, I won't be offended. I'll be proud. I'll be with you in every quiet moment. Tom." The letter slipped from her hands onto the table. 40 years. She thought of the life she had lived, how she never remarried, how she kept his watch in a drawer, how she spoke of him less and less as the years passed, not because she forgot, but because remembering hurt too much. She wondered who had sent the letter now. Maybe the man Tom mentioned. Maybe a son cleaning out an attic. Maybe a promise remembered far too late. Margaret folded the paper carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Then she stood, walked to the window, and let the afternoon light fall across her face. For the first time in decades, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt answered.